Yes, everybody, welcome back to Talking Walls. Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. I'm here for just a mini preview, really, ahead of tomorrow's game against Brighton in the Carabao Cup. I don't really tend to do match previews for cup games, to be completely honest, but I thought I'd better check in with you guys on this one because I wasn't around over the weekend. Obviously, you would have seen, or if you watched the reactions, I didn't do the review. So big thanks to George for sorting that out. And I wasn't on the podcast this weekend. I was away, so I didn't catch any of the Newcastle game. But from what I've seen and what I've heard, obviously things are still very frustrating in and around Molineux right now. So I thought I'd give my thoughts ahead of this game against Brighton. It sounds like, and it looks pretty likely, that Gary O'Neill is going to be making wholesale changes for this game, which I sort of expect. You always expect rotated teams in the Carabao Cup, and part of me thinks there'll be lots of rotation and hopefully the chance to see some fringe players, some chance to see players that haven't really had the opportunities as of yet, and maybe some of the new signings as well, getting the chance with certain players who I'll talk about in a minute. For some reason not getting maybe the minutes they should really deserve. A few injury concerns going into this game. 3 players definitely out. Totti Gomez unavailable. He wasn't even in the squad against Newcastle. Ryan Aït-Nouri has been ruled out as well. And Bastien Moypiu as well had signed injured, apparently, according to Gary O'Neill. So for me, these were probably the type of games that I would expect Bastien to be playing in for the time being, and obviously that isn't going to be the case. Aït-Nouri is obviously going to be a big miss. Starting to see maybe now, well, not necessarily a big miss for this particular game, but maybe starting to see now that we possibly should have brought in another left back. They spoke about maybe Matt Doherty filling in there. Rodrigo Gomez can play there if needed as well. But certainly big misses. And Gary O'Neill also said, alongside Santi Bueno, who should start, a younger centre-back could come into play. So really, I know there's a lot of people concerned and certain people probably thinking that Gary is throwing this game away. I don't necessarily think that is the case, because for me personally, I still think our second choice 11 is still very, very strong. If I'm completely honest, I still think it's strong. Is it strong enough to go and beat Brighton comfortably away from home? Maybe not. I don't think that's necessarily the case, because Brighton have started off the season quite brightly anyway, and they're a good team. However, I think they will rotate quite heavily as well. So certainly it won't be tomorrow evening 2 first choice 11s there. But Wolves do have to be cautious and manage the minutes a little bit more. Of course, the game against Newcastle, from what I've seen, certain players were flagging to come off a little bit earlier than what us fans probably would have hoped. But a lot of those players, Andre in particular, I would say, came into Wolverhampton, came into the Premier League very, very late. Level of physicality is probably a little bit different. He's done a hell of a lot of travelling, so I can't imagine how tired he must be right now. But Gary does have to manage that. But I certainly, a result tomorrow, I really don't know what to expect, because this time in be over 24 hours, won't it? This time in sort of 27, 28 hours, I could be sat here talking about how we've come away with a great win and we're into the next round. But I can always also see us saying pretty disappointed with how it went. Really, really unsure what to expect, because with Brighton, and I think it's similar to Newcastle, to be fair, and it was a very, Wolves could have easily come away with the 3 points on Sunday. And I always feel the same against Brighton. I always feel like we can match them. We can give them a good game. We beat them in the cup last season, earlier this year. I always think we can give them a game. And with 2 rotated 11s, I certainly do think that. I'll flag up a potential 11 on the screen right now. I mean, I saw a couple of conversations on social media earlier on. I think one of the main talking points could be potentially the goalkeeper, because Jose Sarr is probably the goalkeeper most people would expect. Now he's, let's say, a number 2. But Dan Bentley today signed a brand new deal and a brand new contract, so he may well be getting the nod as the number 2 now. I think Pedro Lima, for me, will start at right back. Matt Doherty will probably start at left back. Santi Bueno in there. Now, if Gary O'Neill is sticking to his word about a young centre-back, I think it could probably be... there's a choice of a couple, but I think Justin Hubner probably has the most first team experience, although it didn't quite go to plan with him in Japan. He's played senior football, he's played for the Singapore national team. I wouldn't go against him starting tomorrow, to be completely honest. And it depends if it's like a 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2 situation. You expect minutes of Pablo Sarabia, Tommy Doyle, probably Luke Kundal, Rodrigo Gomez, Guedes, and probably Hwang Hee-chan as well. There may be some changes. There may well keep some first team players in there, depending on levels of fitness, like Cunha and so on. But Gary obviously isn't prioritising the League Cup. So there will be rotation. There will be players having opportunities. But, from that 11, Sarabia had a productive pre-season. I know certain people probably would have been, and I agree with this, probably wouldn't be that bothered if he'd left in the summer, just purely to free up a little bit of money, but still for me, had a productive pre-season. Rodrigo Gomez, Carlos Forbes, it could start as well. Out of that team, I'm looking at it, and maybe for Hwang, Carlos Forbes could easily get a start in there as well, to be honest. And I'd be interested to see him playing from the start, because that's the only way he's going to be knocking on the door more consistently for first team minutes is to show what he can do. But certainly I would expect him to get a good amount of minutes tomorrow. But yeah, that centre, the Kundal, who again had some good moments in pre-season, and Justin Hubner, that would be a very, very interesting one anyway. But that's my thoughts ahead of the game, the latest team news. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. How do you think we're going to get on? I don't think this is going to affect Gary O'Neill long term and his position as a manager, but I certainly don't think a heavy defeat will help his cause at all, and puts even more pressure going on into the weekend as well. But as always, be sure to hit the like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel. I'll be back tomorrow evening giving my thoughts on the match. Enjoy the rest of your day anyway, and I'll catch you all very soon.